Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again. You're still watching this morning's edition of The Breakfast Show, and as we have promised you earlier, that one of our topics, we will be talking about the transportation system here in Egypt, this suffering system and how it can be developed in light of the ambitious plans of the new Egyptian leadership. And to talk to us more about this topic, we are pleased to be joined by Dr. Khaled Abbas, who is an international expert in transport policy and planning. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Khaled. Dr. Khaled, of course, when we are talking about the transportation in Egypt, it comes to our mind the many issues, the many challenges and problems that the transportation system in Egypt is facing. From your point of view, what are the main challenges facing the transportation system in Egypt?
There are several issues that faces the transportation system in Egypt. The most prominent one is the imbalance in the mode share between the railway system, the river transport, and the road transport. Egypt is blessed from the geographical point of view by the river Nile. Egypt is blessed by being the second country in the world after Britain to have a railway system. However, almost 95 to 97% of freight transport and passenger transport are conducted through the road transport system. Now, the problem with road transport system is that it is not the most economic way of transporting goods and people. It's environmentally the most pollutant, and also the traffic accidents that happen on the road system is so high, in addition of the consumption of fuel. So what we need to create is a balance another time to have some of this mode share going to the railway system and the river transport system. This is one main issue. The second issue is that we have always in the transport system, you need to have a master plan. You cannot do projects except when you have a master plan and you have feasibility studies that tells you what are the priority of the project that you need to implement. Now, in different years, we had some master plans, but never has the government really adopted a specific one and said that we are going to use this master plan for the years to come. A minister comes, a minister goes, and they always change the master plan. Now, as the introduction has rightly said, there are certain strategic directions in the transport system in Egypt. We have 2 or 3 very big projects that we are trying to, the leadership is trying to emphasize through its vision. Suez Canal project, the expansion of the road network project, the North Coast project. All of these are very good projects as well. And they are bound to improve the transport system.
Okay. So talking about the transportation system, I'm not talking just about, as you said before, the traffic or the cars. I'm talking about the trains. I'm talking about, and as the last accident, I think, was Sharm el-Sheikh Road, Alto Road. So what do you think? I know that there are many priorities to develop this transportation system, but what should be the start? Where should we start from? Because I think that these projects take a long time, or they can be implemented on the long term. So we need to fix this problem on the short term. So what should be done?
From my experience, I'm a bit cautious. Egypt is a country that has very limited resources, and any project in Egypt could have a very good feasibility in implementation. However, due to the limited resources, you have to prioritize your projects. So my first thing is to converge, for the government to converge on a master plan for the whole transport system in Egypt. What are the projects? What are the balances between the railway and the river and the road transport? What are the feasibility studies for these projects? When, where, and with which money are we going to fund these projects? Some of these projects has to be funded from the taxpayers' money, i.e. from the government budget, but some of them has to be budgeted through a partnership with the private sector. A partnership with the private sector, you have many countries in the world that has been successful in this, attracting money not from private sector entrepreneurs who are Egyptians, but also from abroad. Egypt is a very conducive country to do this, but these projects has to be well studied and well packaged in order to attract this private investor. to come. Suez Canal project, not the digging of the canal itself, but the Suez Canal development area. The whole area is a very good project to attract foreign investment to come. Not to take the land of Egypt, but it's a concession agreements where for a certain period of time they have concession rights in exchange for what they do. So what I said is planning, prioritization through feasibility studies, funding, and the different non-traditional methods of funds. Non-traditional methods of funds are very. There are several methods of funding. Not only the public-private partnership, there is something called value capture techniques, whereby when you build a new road and that new road increases the price of land, the people who owns this land should pay a part of what they have actually acquired as benefit from this land. So tamwir or funding is the third thing. The fourth one, and that's a very important thing, is the human resources. In Egypt in general, we have 80 or 90 million people living in Egypt. However, we need to look at the quality of the training and the quality of education, the quality of knowledge of these people in the different sectors. And transport sector is one of the sectors that has been lacking a lot of training for the human resources, a lot of development for the human resources. And even if you have money and you have projects, but you don't have human resources, it will be wasted, because the human resources that exist who cannot utilize the money in the right projects, it will not be very beneficial. One of the other very important things that I always say is governance. And the concept of governance is something very important. The government cannot govern itself. Governance meaning is who is going to monitor the government in what it does. Monitoring of the government is not جهاز مركزي المحاسبات or whatever. We are talking about technical monitoring. We are talking about that, and this is a concept that is now all across the world, in all the countries in the world, the developed countries, that when the government conducts projects, when the government plans, when the government implements the projects, who will look at these projects and will say that it is going in the correct manner and in the correct pattern. It's not the parliament as well. The parliament is a political governance. We are talking about technical governance, and this is a concept that also has to be developed. You mentioned the accident that happened in Sharm el-Sheikh, and this proves my opening wording when I said that accidents always happen on the roads. By the way, we have lots of accidents that happened on road railway mazla'anat. And always the media comes and say that this is a big issue. No, it's not a big issue. The number of people, fatalities on one accident in Mazla'an is peanuts compared to what happens on a daily basis on the roads. On the roads, you have people being killed on a daily basis. 2 here, 2 there, 4 there, 5 there. Sharm el-Sheikh accident, because it was 30-something, that's why it brought so much media. But on a daily basis, you have people being fatalities on the roads.
Yes, but since we are talking now, sir, about the road security and the accidents that are taking place, how can we secure our people taking the highways every day, and even inside of the capital itself and in other cities, how can we face this challenge of road security?
Well, actually, the other part of your question, I will start with answering. The traffic safety inside cities. We have to differentiate between inside cities and outside cities. Inside the city, surprisingly, the safety issue, surprising to everybody that is watching me now, is very good. Why it's very good? Simply because we have traffic congestion in most of the cities, and so we have so many accidents, but most of these accidents are not fatalities, not life-threatening. You don't have fatalities and injuries a lot in accident that happens inside Cairo. You have lots of bumping and damages to cars, an enormous amount of accident that happens in damages, but not fatalities. But coming to the intercity roads, you have a totally 180 degrees opposite. You have very huge number of accidents, and they are all very fatal and severely injured. So I'm going to concentrate on that side. In accidents, we always say that there are 3 levels of accident causes. One of them is the root causes, and this is related to land use planning and transport planning. And to give the audience a very good example of this is when you have a school very near a railway station, what are you expecting? You must expect accidents because children are coming and crossing the railway on a daily basis while they are going out of the school. When you have the road of Cairo Alexandria agriculture road going through villages, and these villagers wants to cross the road with the animals and everything.
Sorry for your interruption here, sir, but unfortunately, even the Cairo Alexandria desert road, we find people crossing the
Yes,
street,
but
highway.
But why is this happened? Remember, it was called Cairo Alexandria Desert Road and not agriculture road. So at the beginning, it was desert all around it. And that's the land use planning I'm talking about. Suddenly, you have land allocations and developments happening around the roads right and left, and it doesn't become anymore a freeway. A freeway concept, meaning that you do not have any interference of land use in terms of crossing. That's what we are lacking in Egypt. We are lacking freeways. And this is the new concept that the Roads and Bridges Authority is trying to build, to have proper freeways that is completely fenced, whereby you have service roads, whereby you have developments happening after the service roads, so that you don't have this type of friction. Any kind of crossing should not happen on surface, should happen through bridges and through
tunnels or bridges.
Yeah, tunnels or bridges. And that's number one, is the land use planning and the planning of the roads itself. Then you have direct causes, and the direct causes related to the roads, the planning of the road, the financing of the road, the construction, the maintenance of the road, everything related to the roads, from marking, from construction material, everything. Then you have the vehicles, and of course we both know that we have an improvement in the fleet of vehicles in Egypt, but we do not have that kind of improvement yet. You have in Europe something called now Euro 3, Euro 5, and Euro 6 types of vehicles. These are standardized types of vehicles. We don't have this standardization in Egypt. We have people importing different types of vehicles. We don't have a standardization in terms of importation of vehicles. We don't have standardization in terms of the age of vehicles that are allowed on the roads. So number two is vehicles, but number three, and that's the most prominent one, is the road users, the behavior of the road users. And you name it, the behavior of the road users, of course.
I'm speechless about that.
Yeah, speechless about that, exactly. Yeah, I think everybody of us are suffering from this. But even we are suffering, but we are part of the whole problem ourselves, I mean. Even in Egypt, if you try to discipline yourself in traffic behavior, you find people around you trying to make you undisciplined.
Yes.
And I have tried
So you
this.
have to deal the same way, actually.
Exactly,
Take
exactly.
it right.
That's the problem. You bring somebody.
It ends with a great chaos in the streets.
And in order to the last one, and then I'll talk about solutions as well. The last one, because this is very leading, is what we call post-accident causes, and this is very important. But I think there is lots of improvement in that. Post-accident causes, when an accident happens, there is a slightly injured person. Now, if I don't go very quickly and take that person and treat him, he may be transferred to what we call severely injured because of mistreatment or late treatment or miscarriage to the hospital or not very well treated in the hospital. So you can turn a severely injured to a fatality. You can turn a slightly injured to a fatality if you don't do your post-accident procedures in the correct manner. Yeah.
But sir, excuse me, before you talk about the solutions, I want to focus more on the safety regarding, many people would ask why, for example, when I'm traveling in Al-Alamein Road, for example, the lightning, we do have a problem. The roads are dark at night, people cannot see well. Even there are some cars that are not turning on the lights, so that's why people, it may lead to so many accidents. As well, I can raise a question saying that why we do not respect the bicycles in the street, why we do not, like, I want a lane for the bicycles, so as...
There are no lanes, we are seeing for cars as well.
This is the problem. We have
no one
lots
is respecting
of problems.
any lane.
Yes, so there are lots of problems actually regarding the transportation system. So what's the solution?
The second one is, I'll wait the second one because it's a very nice question, the bicycle lanes. In Holland, 1/3 of the daily trips conducted by the Dutch people is done by bicycles. 1/3 33% of the total trips.
It's perfect.
It's perfect, of course. And now we started for the first time not to have a bicycle lane, but to have a bus lane. If you go to Mustafa Nahas Street now in Nasr City, you'll find that the new governor now, I think there is a very big project where they have dedicated the old tram to a bus lane. This is called BRT,
yes.
which is a start. I'm not saying that this is the perfect way. It's a start.
Of course, we
I
cannot
would have wished that to do the bus lane and beside it the bicycle lane and then the car. You know, this is what happened in the West. In the West, they have bus lane and bicycle lane and car lanes, and when they come to the traffic light, they have something called traffic signal preemption, where they give priority in opening the traffic signal to the bicyclists and to the buses. And they leave the cars. You are the bad people because you are riding your cars and you are giving us energy, lots of energy consumption, lots of accidents and lots of environmental pollution. These guys are the good guys. So these guys, we will allow them to travel even before you in the traffic light. So from this member or from this place as well, I totally second you in saying that why not? I mean, Egypt is a very good country, especially that you have lots of urban poor, lots of people who cannot afford to have cars. So if you provide them with good cycling system in terms of network and with a cheap but good quality cycle, you may solve a lot of problems for very urban poor people and even for us.
Sir, as you have mentioned, in the Netherlands and abroad, we find also places to park your cars or bikes, and people even who can afford, the managers and CEOs and CTOs are riding their bikes and going to the metro station and riding the metro. But why our culture that we have to go each one by his own car? And if you look inside the cars, you will find each car sitting inside of it, the driver and someone else, and no carpooling. So how can we change the culture?
This is what we call incentives and disincentives, the carrot and the stick. We as car drivers, we have carrots. We do not have any sticks. It's very cheap to previously to pay fuel for the car. It's very cheap to license the car. It's very cheap to park or to double park and to pay a fine or not to pay a fine or whatever. Now, when you say in Europe they do this, I remember when I was in the United States, I was working in the U.S. Department of Transport in Washington, D.C., and we used to live in Virginia, and what we used to do is to take our car, park it in the metro station, take the metro, and then go.
But there are facilities as well.
Yeah, but why we do this as well? Because if I want to go to Washington, D.C., I will find the parking area. But you know how much it will cost me? It will cost me a hell of a lot of money. And it may cost me around $60. $60 to park a car for one day in Washington, D.C. Here, what's the parking fees? You have to make driving the car very expensive in terms of owning a car, licensing a car, paying fuel for the car, and parking the car. But
before doing that, we have to create a system.
To put the carrot. You are right. You are definitely right. It is not fair to ask car drivers for all of these penalties,
and no facilities
and there is no alternative.
Yes.
So you have to create the alternative. The alternative is, in Egypt particularly, is public transport and all modes of public transport. The metro is number one. The metro, since 2002, we should have had 6 lines of metro. Now we have barely 3.
Yes.
Now it's a rule of thumb. Any 2 million people needs 1 line of metro. We have here in Cairo around 14, 16 million, i.e. you need at least 8 lines of metro now. You have only 3. You need to expand the metro system to have another 5 lines of metro covering the whole of Egypt, not bridges and not tunnels, but metros. And you need to create these BRTs, more dedicated lanes for bus rapid transit. You need to have the LRTs, is the kind of surface metro, but not the metro that we have seen in Masr Gedida. This is an old one. It's light rail trains. So these kind of transport systems that are premium, that are cheap, but offer you a very good level of service. You need to create even levels of service. There is no problem. For example, if I want to make one car, it's high level of service. Everybody is seated, but I will pay for this ticket £5, for example. And there is another car where seated and standing, this is £1 or £2 or £3 or whatever. And even these projects are very prone to be funded even by the private sector. You put any metro line in Egypt, you'll find an enormous amount of people riding that metro and paying tickets for that. So this is a very financially rewarding project as well.
I think it's a vicious circle, but we can start.
Definitely.
We cannot say that we cannot start.
No.
It's easy to start, but we have to talk to people. We have to, there should be fines, or we should punish those who will not abide by the rules. For example, I think we have lots of issues, but we can start.
But how we implement the law? As we have just mentioned in your answer, that people are violating all laws.
Yes.
They are driving in the wrong side. They are speeding. They are parking wrongly. They are not respecting lanes. And you can find everything while you are driving in Egypt. So how can we implement the law properly in order to face all these violations which are causing the disasters and the loss of lives, especially from the truck drivers?
Yeah. Laws in Egypt are there. The problem is the enforcement of the law. Now, I was very happy to hear while I'm entering the studio that there is a very big campaign now for removing people back, removing people who are now that is happening now.
Not only in Cairo we face these vendors, but on the Cairo Alexandria Desert Road there are vendors in the middle of the road.
Even now in New Cairo, we can see them.
It's a big mess.
The problem is that you enforce once, and maybe they come and return. You have to enforce once, twice, 3 times, 4 times until it becomes that the other party will understand that the state is really serious about enforcement. You don't have, enforcement campaigns. At the beginning, they will be hard because with many people not abiding the laws, and they are relaxed about abiding the laws. At the beginning, it will be hard. It needs systematic and continuous enforcement for a period of time. Once this period of time elapses, people will behave in the correct manner. You find people in the West, even if it is at the middle of the night and no policemen are watching them, they will still wait to cross the road at the proper traffic signal. Now, the other thing we can do is that if we have limited resources in terms of human resources of police officers, because they have so many tasks to conduct, you can still use what we call intelligent transport systems and intelligent enforcement systems, video cameras that can pick people who are, I know that there is certain traffic signals in Egypt that had video cameras, that these video cameras are not even working. They are not working. But still, people who does not know that they are not working, they abide the law because they think they are being photographed, but they don't know it's not working. But many of them are not working.
Sir, but some Egyptians like to violate the law. When there is a radar or something on the road, we give each other signals. So it's here to protect us. So how can we change this mentality?
Now this is your role and my role, is this publicity campaigns that in the media to make people understand that by doing this, they're actually contributing to maybe to a safety issue that may be life-threatening for somebody else.
Indeed, yes.
We have to create a cartoon or a movie, a small movie that shows that somebody was driving very fast and the other one tells him take care because of the radar, and then he crossed the radar, he slowed down, but then he became fast another time, but for the second time he hit somebody and that somebody was dead, and that somebody returned to his home, the parent was dead and the children does not have a parent anymore. This is a kind of movies that we want to create on the TV and to make people understand that they are contributing to this by doing this. It is not that you are not making him paying a fine. It's more than this. You might cause him to make a very bad accident, threatening for his life and life of others.
Oh, but it's really funny that we Egyptians are...
we like to violate the law.
Yes, one of my friends called me before saying that in Al Alamein Road there is a radar in this place, take care. Like they are calling each other. Saying take care of this device.
Media.
Yes, and there is an application through what we give each other alarms that there are different radars on this part of the road.
Just take care in this part and then you can speed as you want.
But this is coming, enforcement is something, but at the end of the day, the ethical issues needs enforcement itself. The ethical issues
We need to change our culture.
People has to understand that it is not yani fahlawa, it is not intelligence to do this. It's very bad, as a matter of fact.
Sir, before we used to have particular hours for the trucks to move on the roads, but now it doesn't exist anymore.
No, I think it still exists.
But on the Cairo-Alexandria road, for example, we find the trucks anytime.
On the bridges,
yes,
I think
now
they're not allowed.
There are some renovation on the road. It is creating great chaos. So how can we regulate all this?
Okay, I think this allowing heavy goods vehicles is mainly inside the cities, but however, between the cities, as you said, and this is also related to the traffic accidents, now the whole concept in Egypt is to create a parallel road network for road trucks and for road freight. Most of the projects now in the Roads and Bridges Authority is concentrating to have parallel roads specific for heavy goods vehicles. This will help in two things. It will first of all prevent the very severe accidents, because many of the accidents happens from these heavy goods vehicles and they're very fatal accidents. And secondly, it will also create a more smooth traffic environment, because heavy goods vehicles will be separated, so you'll have better speed and better journey for time for other private vehicles. So this is happening, and we have a very good justification for this, because I think that the statistics shows that around 1/3 of the traffic pattern between the cities are heavy goods vehicles, which is a very high thing. And also remember that in Egypt, if we are now looking at our geographical position and trying to create Egypt to be the transit area whereby you have goods coming from Alexandria and Port Said and through the Suez Canal area and passing, so you'll have more heavy goods vehicles traveling on your roads in the future. You are expecting more heavy goods vehicles. So creating separate lanes and a separate network for them is a perfect solution.
So, sir, we've been talking about the negative issues. I want to shed the light more on the positive efforts by the government and the projects that were recently inaugurated by Prime Minister Ibrahim Mahlab in Marsa Matruh, for example, Foka Bridge, I think, and the new ring road in Al Alamein. Would you please shed the light more on such developmental projects?
For sure, we in Egypt have been concentrated all around the Delta region. Now we need to move to the east and to the west. I think we have two very big projects. One in the east is the Suez Canal project, and that's a typical strategic transport project. This is international transport, not even local transport. So by creating the second canal and creating the Suez Canal development area or development zone, you are creating job opportunities. You are using the geographical advantage of Egypt in a proper way. You are you know, as a matter of fact, that the Suez Canal, if you increase the capacity of the canal in terms of lanes, you will have more vessels crossing the canals. Those vessels, if you create for them different kinds of maintenance and different kinds of services and support, you'll create job opportunities. You'll create a foreign currency.
It will save time.
It will save time for the whole vessels. You will create a better level of service. You will earn more money because you will increase probably the fees. You will create lots of job opportunities and lots of market for the ports that are all in this area. So in the east, this is a very excellent project, and this is a project that is very much geographically, nobody can do this project.
So why it was not
no country can do this project.
I heard that this project, or there were talks about such a project before, but it was not implemented, and then under the new leadership it was implemented. So why they were not thinking about that before? I think it's a huge development, or
I think it's
a turning point.
I mean, many things in Egypt is very much related to political will. There are many projects in the drawers. Egypt has got lots of potentials. I think that this project has been always there somehow. Now it's coming out of the drawer another time. But of course, I understand that there will be a new master plan done now by one of the consultants. So I think systematically very, very nicely. Now going to the west, you have also, despite that, it's not that I agree or disagree. I agree completely that there must be another project in the west, because the west is another. You need to create Egypt not to be linear anymore. You need Egypt to be like rectangular. You know, in the east you have the Suez Canal, you have the Delta in the middle, and then you have another big project in the west, and then you have linking roads and linking things. So Egypt is expanded. Egypt becomes a rectangle as its geographical area, and not a linear shape like what we see in the green area. So the road network is a very nice project. The expansion of the road network is happening. There is lots of road network expansion in the Sahel al-Shamali, in the north coast, and the Fuka bridge is definitely one of the most important thing about that bridge is that it is crossing a railway, and so if you need to prevent the most severe railway accidents, you have to create bridges or tunnels of roads that crosses these. So this is another very good project. I personally believe that I would have liked for the government hopefully to conduct a kind of feasibility study whether it's better for us to create a north to south new high-speed railway or to create a north to south road network. This is very important, and it's a very strategic decision, because at the end of the day you don't need to go very far into the west, because Egyptians does not socially they do not move very far distances. If you see the creation of the new cities at the time of Sadat, 6th of October, and Sadat City, they were close to the capital. Sadat City was not very close to the capital, and that's why it was not very successful in attracting lots of people. We need to move about 10, 15, or 20 kilometers to the west and to create a new linear development, and then the area between the development that already exists and the new one will be filled, and then you create another one and the third one and the fourth one. You don't move very far into the desert, because this is one of the things that I always advise not to move very far in the west.
Indeed, Dr. Khaled Abbas, the international expert in transport policy and planning. Thank you very much, sir, for your input.
Thank you, sir, so much.
Thank you very much.
And now we would go to watch this feature story by Dina Yunus, and we'll be back to resume the segments of the show.